Hey guys, welcome back. As I said in my first video, I do offer a service for providing expert personalised feedback to your personal statement. This can be done by dropping me an email. All of the details have been posted below, so make sure you check it out. Hope you guys enjoy the video.
Hey guys, welcome back. In the last session, we sort of introduced the whole workshop and what we'll be covering today. And now I'm going to go on to what you should include and what you should avoid in your personal statement. Normally at this stage of the day, we would sort of have some questions and sort of structure for the day. And I would ask the students what they think should be answered in a personal statement. So I'll just move me over there. And this would be like an open discussion to really get you thinking about what you should avoid, what's important to include, and what, of course, is the purpose of a personal statement. However, we can't have this open discussion. So I'm going to go straight into what you should be avoiding and what you should include in your personal statement. So when looking at things to avoid, number one, long, complicated sentences. There's nothing worse than as an admission tutor who has to sit there sifting through hundreds of personal statements, looking at the same generic sort of things and not being able to follow what they're reading. So if they're long sentences which sort of go on for ages and ages, the admission tutor is going to get bored and they're sort of going to zone out. You want to make sure that they can be as enticed as possible to make sure that they are engaged and they fully understand the message that you're trying to get across. Just from in general, when you're writing essays, if you're writing on for too long and each sentence just doesn't seem to end, it's really hard to follow someone's train of thought. Whereas if you have slightly shorter sentences, you can really understand what they're saying point to point to point. So that's just something to just think about in general. A lack of reflection, definitely something to avoid. Or perhaps I should put this on the include side and say it's fundamental in any personal statement to have reflection. And this is something I'll be really trying to drive home today. So this just means reflecting on anything you write in your personal statement. So say if you've read a book, you need to, don't just say, I read Freakonomics, full stop. You want to reflect on it. You want to say what you learned, what your favorite interests were, what you thought was challenging, what you thought was right, what you thought was wrong. You don't want to just say, I read this, full stop. You really want to be able to reflect on anything you do. And this reflection, if it's in terms of academic readings, shows a sort of maturity that you really understood the reading. It shows that you understood it and you have a personal opinion on it. So really, really important to have reflection. But this isn't just for readings. I'm going to talk more later about your extracurricular activities. And if you're saying any sort of extracurricular activities, whether it's football, cricket, snowboarding, violin, piano, whatever you do outside of academia, it's imperative that you reflect upon it. So there's no benefit of saying, I played grade 8 guitar, I'm really good, full stop. Just say this taught you, or if you're saying, for my example, for instance, is football. So I say I play a lot of football. This gives me a teamwork element. It gives me the ability to work towards a common objective. So it's really important that you're reflecting on everything you write. A big thing, just avoid listing things. So this can be whether you're just listing books that you've read, saying I've read this, I've read that, I've read this, I've read that. That is so, it doesn't add anything of value. Or it could even be if you say the extracurricular side, oh, I play football, I do this, I do that, I do that. You need to be able to reflect on everything, so avoid listing things. Also avoid irrelevant or out of date examples. So you really want to keep things recent. Universities want to know who you are now. They don't want to know who you were 5 years ago or 6 years ago. So if you were talking about something you done when you were 12 or 11, they don't care. They fundamentally want to know about who you are now and who they're going to be getting for the future. So it's really important you keep any examples quite recent. And by recent, I mean anything from GCSEs onward. So if you're using an example, use something from when you're 16 or older, unless it's something which you've done throughout your life. In these video series, I'm going to draw a bit about how I use football as an example. But this is something I've done since I was 4 and I've carried on the whole way up until now. And if it's something you've done your whole life, yeah, that's a great thing to use. But if it's something you've done when you were much younger, just avoid including it in your personal statement. Avoid negative connotations. You always want to put a positive spin on everything. So you don't want to sort of have a sad argument or like almost having a sob story. If something adverse has happened to you in your life, make sure you put a positive spin on it. Say what you've learned, say the outcomes which it led to. Don't just sort of try and look for empathy and try and gain votes that way, because you're not going to get in from this sort of negative aspects. They want to see someone positive who's going to have a genuine impact on the university. More things to avoid. Generic or stereotypical statements. So a lot of times some like very classic sort of lines are thrown in a personal statement, such as I've wanted to study economics all of my life, or ever since I came out of the womb I was raging for economics. These just don't add anything personal, and at the end of the day it is a personal statement, not just a generic statement. But we'll cover more on that in later videos. Gimmicks, another one to avoid. Controversy in whatever form it may come. So you don't want to be too controversial in the topics you're bringing up, whether it's war, conflict, politics, anything that could be a bit borderline and a bit controversial is probably best if you steer clear of. But this can also be in terms of like your thoughts and ideas. Just if it's a grey area, just avoid it. There's plenty of things you can talk about, and you don't want to end up upsetting an admissions tutor who might read something and say, well, I completely disagree with that strongly, and they might just reject you on the spot because of that. There's no need to take that risk. Repetition, big thing to avoid. You don't want to just keep saying the same examples. You don't want to keep saying the same thing over and over again, because you have limited spaces. As we said in the last video, you've got 4,000 characters and 47 lines, and you need to make sure every single character is of value. So don't waste time just repeating yourself. Again, which kind of links to the above, avoid drawing out one example for too long. So you don't want to just have one example going the whole way through your personal statement, because they'll think either A, you have quite a boring life, you've only done one thing ever, or B, why are you talking about one thing? They'll be really confused. So try and get in a whole assortment of examples, readings, ideas. You want to have maybe I'd say as a ballpark figure, maybe 5 or 6 different ideas you want to be covering in your personal statement. If you have too many, it's going to be too much of a list where you're just listing things. If you have too few, they're going to think, right, they haven't really brought enough ideas to the table. And finally, you want to avoid inappropriate examples in whatever form they may come. If it's something that you're reading, you think, oh, that might not make too much sense to send to someone for university, don't put it in. Okay, we're now going to cover what to include in your personal statement. So a big thing is your sports and other hobbies. In a later video, we will be covering your extracurricular activities. And this can include musical instruments or work experiences. So you can draw your examples from any walks of life, whether it's academic, work experience, hobbies, sports, because this can sort of show who you are as a person. And we will be covering extracurricular activities in a different video, but just briefly, it shows you can link in your skills to sports and other hobbies. So for instance, I would say I play a lot of football. This drives my hard work ethic and teamwork. And you can sort of interlink these skills into your hobbies and extracurricular activities, which is something which really shows an admission tutor what you're capable of. A massive thing is personal interest within the field of study. And in the next video, we're going to be covering this in a lot more detail. But this is fundamental to any personal statement, as it shows you have a genuine passion and interest in your subject. And the final two are your personal attributes. So what makes you different to someone else? What makes you tick? What you like doing, what you don't like doing, how you work as an individual, and your awards. If you have any awards, just you want to be making sure you use them. You pop them in your personal statement to show that you have excelled in certain areas. So for instance, with myself, when I was 18, when I finished uni, I got an award for achieving the highest score in A-level economics at my school, and also a Woolham's Award for excellence in my A-level results. So I got 3 A stars. And it's these awards which you want to sort of drop into your personal statement and kind of integrate them to show that you are above and beyond. So that summarizes, that finishes off this this video. So we're just really summarizing what you want to avoid and what you want to include in your personal statement. The next video will be more targeted on including your personal interest within the field of study. So make sure you guys tune in for this video. I'll see you in a bit.